Let's talk about the narcissism of power, and particularly about how psychopathy is fast becoming our operating system. The world that we have created, that we are in the process of creating, even as it becomes more effective and highly functional, it seems to be having this strange soul annihilating quality that is proportionate to the acceleration in efficiency, as though as we advance in the material world, it's like a zero-sum game. We're having something taken from us in the spiritual world. And I started to think about that, and I was like, well, maybe that's just your perception. It's not really what's happening. It can just feel that way a little bit. So I decided to do a thought experiment where I was like, no, imagine it is doing that. Why would it be doing that? And I think we should consider the way in which, if you enter the material world and you want to dominate the material world as much as you can, and you have, first of all, you would create capitalism, then you would skew capitalism towards consumerism, then you would, of course, skew it towards corporatism, because it's games, isn't it? So if we set up a game where the point of the game is just to score as many points as you can, and I don't know, we'll keep it to a sport that I understand. Let's say it's MMA. How do you win in MMA? Well, you need to inflict as much injury as you can, and pain and discomfort to your opponent in your stand-up as you can within a shorter space as you can. Then you need to be very, very good at physically dropping them to the floor, preferably landing on top of them, where you are either do a ground and pound, so you would need to train for that. You'd need to be very aggressive. You'd need to be very, very fit, or you submit them via choking them out, or by taking hold of one of their limbs and twisting it in a direction that limb does not want to go until they say, ow, please stop. Every game works the same. So if that's the point and that's how you win, then all you're going to do is just drill down and drill down and drill down on aggression, on speed, on strength, on cardio, on skill in your stand-up, your takedown, and your ground game. Similarly with capitalism, with corporations, with businesses, we say, well, how are you winning the game? Well, if you make more points than you lose in the making of the points, then you're winning the game. How does that feed into consumerism? Well, I want more points. I want more currency. Those are the points in the game. What's consumerism got to do with that? Well, if the people who I'm selling to are only buying what they need, they're going to buy less from me than if I convince them and trick them and coerce them into buying things that they don't need, but that they want. And then I create consumerism. So I inflame their lust. I inflame their envy. I inflame their resentment to get them to spend more on things that they really don't need, but that they want. There's a thing inside of them that craves it, that lusts for it. In order for those systems to work, in order for them to function well, narcissism and psychopathy are not a bug, they're a feature. Psychopathy is heavily goal-orientated behavior. Psychopathy, psychopaths have very, very low impulse control. They're not bothered by normal considerations of morality. If you want, let's say, in the MMA scenario, somebody who's quite psychopathic with very, very little empathy and is comorbid with narcissism, so they're very concerned with winning, with making lots of money, with having their image being online everywhere and in the mainstream media, narcissistic psychopathy would be fairly well adaptive to that environment. I'm not saying all MMA fighters are narcissistic psychopaths, but you can think of some, if you know MMA off the top of your head, who clearly are. The military, the same. Psychopathy is not maladaptive if you're thinking particularly in terms of specialized operations and special forces. It's adaptive. So if we want things to work with efficiency, issues of morality slow things down. Issues of empathy slow things down. If the bottom line is just make as much money as you can, or kill as many of the enemy as you can, or score as many points as you can, then psychopathy is adaptive to that context, not maladaptive. And in some contexts, so is narcissism. If the name of the game is to become famous, if the name of the game is to become known, and you score more points by celebrity and by being known, then narcissism is adaptive in that scenario, not maladaptive. Therefore, it couldn't really be considered a mental illness. It would be just considered an advantage. So I think instead of focusing on individuals, focusing on scapegoating or witch hunts and being like, oh, this individual has been in power and they made loads of money on insider trading when they were supposed to be looking after the country. I get the feeling. I understand the resentment, and I understand the righteous indignation and the rage and the desire for compensation and the desire for revenge. But we aren't going to affect real systemic change by doing that. The only way to affect real systemic change is not to chase the human beings who, yes, engaged in predatory behavior when they were creating their corporations and they were merging with other businesses. Of course you would do that if the bottom line and keeping the shareholders happy was the main objective. We have to think systemically. You've got to change the point system. You can't just be angry with human beings who, through genetics, through trauma, are more likely to engage in those games and to go and win them. Are we going to punish people for winning the game of capitalism? There's a lot of talk of that at the moment. There's a lot of talk of saying, okay, we need to do something with these billionaires. We need to do something. We need to have more punitive tax measures to these billionaires. Now, I'm not saying it's right or wrong because I haven't spent enough time thinking about it. But what I am saying is just be aware of whatever it is you want to do. The game, the rules of the game were read out to them. They played it, and they played it very well. And now some of us are looking to punish them for winning. Do I see how at an economic level, if I put my socialism glasses on, if I think about what's best for everybody, something needs to change there? Of course I see it. I'm just saying, a little restrained. If you were told to play tennis and then you were shown the rules of tennis and you got really, really good at tennis and you became the best in the world, it's a little mean to then turn around and say to that person, we're going to punish you for becoming the best you could be at this thing. These are bad analogies. People really suffer human beings really suffer in the real world as a result of corporatism, cronyism, and consumer capitalism. I don't deny it. We just need to be careful. We just need to not get on a moral rampage, a moral panic, a hysteria where we go too far. They were read the rules of the game. They played within the rules of the game. They won it. That's what has happened. Why would psychopathy flourish under such circumstances? Because empathy is not rewarded in those circumstances. Being empathic, being moral, being kind is not rewarded. It seems that you could make the statement that the opposite is rewarded. You probably should be a bit cruel. You probably should be a little bit inhumane. You probably should be a little bit indifferent to the suffering of people. Before everybody gets on these moral campaigns and gets all uptight in the comments, think about how much suffering went into this device that we all carry. People are not being properly rewarded and properly compensated for that. It's all very well hacking at the low-hanging fruit of the avatars of billionaires and multimillionaires, but we all have our place in this system as well. So there are sacrifices we would all need to make. Are we all willing to make them in order for real systemic change to take place? The world would look very, very different. We would have a lot less choice. We would have a lot less access to precisely the things we want at all times, night and day. Life would become simpler again. There would be less stuff if we change the system. But it's a systemic change that has to be made. Can you do that nation by nation if the other nations you're in competition with aren't doing it with you? Not really. Not really, because all you're doing is making your nation weaker. And the people who surround you, who are in competition with you, they're probably going to swallow you up. So then you have a problem of collaboration. If we don't all collaborate in this endeavor at the same time, what we're effectively doing is suicidal. So if you're sat there going, well, why don't we gamify this differently and prioritize not just making money and not just the bottom line, but making workers' conditions better, or rewarding big corporations for not damaging the environment as much? Because if your nation does that and other nations that you're in competition with, either through trading or literally through military competition, aren't doing it, it's a suicidal policy. That's why you can't do it. It's good to look at these things sometimes from a different perspective. Sometimes psychology is useful when you're looking at economics and systems of control. I can see exactly why the world looks as it does today. I don't think that there was an evil cabal of people rubbing their hands gleefully and going, ha, 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 we're going to ruin the world. I think if you track the history back far enough, you can kind of see how one thing just led to another. And this is evolution in action. Capitalism has evolution. Socialism has evolution. Humanity has evolution. There's biological evolution and there's economic evolution. We've arrived here via a non-mysterious path. I don't think anybody's confused particularly or mystified as to how we have arrived at a situation where literal pathology, quite nasty pathologies like narcissism and psychopathy, are not only not punished within our systems, but are actively rewarded in the systems of power that we have created. Ladies and gents, I have a new course. It is hopefully the last course I ever make. I don't think I'll need to make another one after this. I've set myself no time limits, no restrictions. I've treated it as though I'm doing face-to-face coaching with you. And so if I need to cover a topic and it needs to be covered thoroughly, I take the time to do it. At the moment, I think the course is around 15 hours long. If I need to make amendments afterwards, I reserve the right to do that. I will continue adding to this course for as long as I feel is necessary until I've gone, okay, that's it. That's me. I've said everything I can say about helping people to recover from narcissistic abuse. The course is a total roadmap, a total narcissistic abuse recovery roadmap from beginning, step by step by step by step by step to the end. The syntax of the course has been set carefully. You're going to ask in the comments, can I do this with my therapist? Can I do this with my counselor? Please do. Please do get the assistance of a qualified mental health practitioner, preferably one who has a very good understanding of narcissistic abuse, and they can go through the course with you and they can adapt bits of the course for you. If you do the course, I can't promise that all the problems will go away in a few months. What I would say is a realistic target is that inside of 2 months of working on the course, you would start to feel 80 to 90% better. That's realistic. And you might go, well, that would mean I only have 10% healing to do. Yes, my friends, but that last 10 might be an ongoing journey for the rest of your life. I want you to set your expectations properly. It's a very good course. I'm very happy with it. It's very thorough. It leaves no stone unturned, but it is a course. It's a course we do online. So there's a limit to how much it can actually do. Therapy is going to help as well. If you do these techniques and your therapist takes the techniques and adapts them for you specifically, it's going to be very, very powerful. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for your time and for your attention, and I look forward to speaking to you again very soon. Thank you.